Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is your brother Safiullah, brothers and sisters. Usually we meet in the last these 10 days in MCMC working on big projects, alhamdulillah. This year we also had the same plan, but we have to rush to come back from Medina Munawwara because our son Muhammad Safiullah passed away. May Allah give him Jannat al-Firdaus. Now we are establishing an orphanage on his name in Peshawar. Please help us donate to that cause. The link is given and the detail is given. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The best part of Ramadan may still be ahead. Its final days and final hours are Miskul Khitam, the musk that seals it all, the crowning touch. Don't miss out on that. Make sure that you pay your zakat, if you usually do in Ramadan. Make sure that you pay your zakat al-fitr or fitrah before the time for Salatul Eid. Remain as enthusiastic as you started. Keep up your i'tikaf. Laylatul Qadr, with all of its blessings and rewards, is probably still awaiting you, and your sincerity and ibadah may be the cause of relief for all the world from the coronavirus.
بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد صدق الله العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem to everybody. SubhanAllah, we are almost towards the end. Let's inshallah benefit the most we can. And today's topic, inshallah, is the storm and the archers. And so first I want to begin by saying that please go online to mcmcnj.org/the masjid and please donate our community center. Please donate today, inshallah. Today we are going to talk about the battle that took place after the Battle of Badr. And yesterday, Brother Asim, I believe, elaborated and he explained very well in regards to the details of the Battle of Badr. And basically, now after the Battle of Badr, the Quraysh were extremely ashamed and they were at loss because because of the loss that they felt during the Battle of Badr, they had been having troubles economically because their route to do trade, like in the past we've learned that Mecca was prominently earning its income and through trade. And so their route to trade was through going through Al-Medina, and so which was going through the Muslims, and Muslims had defeated them, and so they were and they were looking for a way to kind of get back at the Muslim, and they had thought that, you know, regardless of us trying different routes to avoid the Muslims, I feel like the only way to defeat, they felt that the only way to defeat the Muslims were to fight them again, but in a more prepared manner. So the Quraysh tribe, they plotted and they prepared for another battle. And this battle was in the Islamic month of Shawwal, and they started their preparations. They were a troop of 3,000 soldiers, and alongside with 3,000 soldiers, they also had 200 horsemen. And this battle was led by Abu Sufyan from the Quraysh tribe. I mean the Quraysh, and they had then. So I'm going to kind of elaborate a little bit on what this battle of Uhud is. So Uhud is at a mountain, and on a little outside of like the Medina, the prime unit of Medina. So they had the Quraysh on their way to Medina had stationed their camp near the mountain of Uhud, and so once the Prophet ﷺ learned intelligence that the Quraysh had plotted and planned to come attack them at Medina. And so so just to keep in mind that the distance between Mecca and Medina is like, you know, at ease it would take you like at leisure 9 days, in a rush about 7 to 6 days, and the Quraysh would already almost by the Mount of Uhud. So the Prophet ﷺ didn't have a lot of time in terms of preparation for another battle. So he had consulted with his companions. The Prophet ﷺ, with every major decision, always consulted his companions. And so the Prophet ﷺ wanted to get advice on whether they should wait for the kuffar, the Quraysh, to come to Al-Medina and have the fight in Medina, or should they go to the Quraysh and fight them on the way. So majority of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ were very eager, excited to fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so majority have said that we should not stay back. We should show them basically, we're not scared and we're gonna come fight you. And so but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had some hesitancy of trying. I had preferred to actually stay in Al-Medina, but because of the majority vote and majority of the companions leaning towards going out of Medina to go fight the Quraysh outside, was the end decision. And so the Prophet ﷺ, since it was like a quick decision to make, this decision was made. The Prophet ﷺ went to put on his armor, and these companions started to have second thoughts that if the Prophet ﷺ was a little hesitant, I don't know if we should have actually even pushed him. And so they went to the Prophet ﷺ, said that we are with you. If you want to stay in Al-Medina, we will fight here, or if you want to go out, we are with you in every case. So the Prophet ﷺ had already put on his armor to go fight the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and enemies of Islam. So the Prophet ﷺ told his companions that it is not proper or appropriate for the Prophet of Allah to take out his armor once he had made a decision to go and fight the enemies. And so they went with initially they went with 1,000 soldiers from the Muslim al-Medina to go meet the kuffars, the Quraysh, who were soldiers of 3,000. And so on their way, the Prophet ﷺ wanted to take a route to meet the Quraysh in a way where they weren't fighting them face to face, but more so come behind them where they wouldn't basically expect the Muslims to come forward. So Prophet ﷺ had asked his companions who would, if someone knows a way or they can suggest a route that they can take where they would go behind the enemies, the Quraysh, where the Mount of Uhud would be behind them, and if the Mount of Uhud was behind them, then also on the right of them. So they had there was a companion who took them through the back routes where it was a unusual route, and this route was through like farmlands and various inner roads, and they were able to alhamdulillah accomplish and position themselves behind the in a way where the Mount Uhud was behind the Muslims instead of behind the Quraysh. So now the Muslims, the army of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was now facing behind the Quraysh. So now, once the Prophet ﷺ and his army had positioned themselves by Mount Uhud, there was a munafiqeen, which yesterday Brother Asim had mentioned that what the munafiqeen are. So right now I'm going to take a moment and let you guys answer from our talk from yesterday, that who are the munafiqeen in the time of, well, in general, who the munafiqeen are. And I'm going to wait until you guys answer. They look like Muslims, but they're not. Yes, Afif Muhammad said that they are Muslims, but they're not. And that is true. That they are, like, they put up a front because the Muslims had gained prestige because of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. They had wanted to be a in-person show that they were Muslims. Like, they wear the garments of a Muslim, speak the language of a Muslim, act, but in their heart they are not. And what better time to kind of show their true colors when Islam needed them, and so there was a leader of the Munafiqeen and his people, and they were a group of 300, and they told the Prophet ﷺ that, hey, so we don't think it's a good idea for us to actually station ourselves here. We're definitely going to lose. So how about we go back to Al-Madinah, and we'll just go there and see and have the fight there. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his army was already stationed, and so these people, group of Munafiqeen, the 300, had decided that they were going to go back and they were going to leave the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his army to this misery, because they knew that, in their heart they weren't actually fighting for for Islam or for the true love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or for the love of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So the remaining people, there were 700 Muslims against 3,000 kuffars. And so Another strategy that the Prophet Muhammad SAW kind of had instructed his army was, since the Mount Uhud was behind them, on the right of them, but nothing on the left, and there was a hill a little at a distance from the Mount Uhud itself, and the Prophet Muhammad SAW had stationed 50 archers to guard that hill and guard the Muslims. And he had specifically instructed them that no matter what happens, whether we lose or we win, whether you see the battle's over or not, he specifically and giving them specifics, instructed these archers to not budge, like do not move from here. No matter what happens, do not move. And so this is at the beginning of the battle, before the battle even starts. And so there are 50 archers on this hill. And now, before the battle started, the person in charge of these 50 archers is a man. It's a man named Abdullah ibn Jubair, and he was in charge of these 50 archers. So before the fight starts, Prophet Muhammad SAW kind of gave a pep talk to his army. Again, of course, the Prophet Muhammad SAW, he was a great leader, and he's a leader of our of our deen, and he was a leader for that army. And so he was giving a pep talk to his army, and in midst of that, he took out his sword, and he asked from amongst his companions in his army, he said, "Who will take my sword and fulfill its right?" So basically, who will take my sword? So this is great. It's a great honor for these people, this army, that they are going to get to fight with the sword of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it was a great honor. So the first person to answer was Hamza ibn Muta'alib radiallahu anhu. He was the uncle of the Prophet, and he said, "I will, ana ya Rasulullah, I will." And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not give it to him. The next person to raise his hand was Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, and he said, "Ana ya Rasulullah, I will." And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't give it to him. The next person was Zubair ibn Awam, and he said, "I will take your sword, ya Rasulullah." And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't give it to him either. And then the last person to ask was Muqdad radiallahu anhu, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't give it to him either. And mind you, all these four people are like major strong companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were amongst the closest companions, if you could rank them. They were really close to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And from the army, there was an Ansar man named Abu Dujana radiallahu anhu. He instead of saying immediately like "I will," he asked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that what is the right of the sword. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the right of this sword is that you don't stop striking the enemy, the kuffar, until this sword bends. And so Abu Dujana said, "Ana ya Rasulullah, I will give your sword, I will fulfill the rights of this sword." And so in the manner that he asked, and the manner that the Prophet had initially asked, the Prophet ﷺ gave his sword to Abu Dujana radiallahu anhu. Also, so during this battle, the Battle of Uhud, the kuffar had multiple duels to initiate the fight. Amongst the kuffar, the Quraysh also brought their women. Aside from the 3,000 soldiers, there were women part of their caravan of army. And these women were brought because the Quraysh, the Kuffar, their logic behind bringing women was that they would they were a form of incentive for them, that they would be protecting these women's honor, and so they had brought women with them. And amongst these women was a Kuffar woman named Hind bint Utbah, whose father, uncle, and brother had died in the Battle of Badr. And with her was this man named Jubair ibn Mutay. And his uncle, this man is also a kuffar, and his uncle was killed in Battle of Badr as well. And so he had a slave, an Ethiopian slave named Wahshi. And Wahshi was known for an expert spear throwing, and he offered, Jubair ibn Mutay offered Wahshi freedom from slavery, freedom to, that if he was to take revenge for his uncle who was killed by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in exchange for Wahshi's freedom, he told him that if you kill Hamza, Hamza ibn Muttalib radiallahu anhu, the uncle of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then you consider yourself free. So this Ethiopian slave Wahshi, he had nothing to do with the Muslims or the Quraysh. All he cared about was his freedom. He had no other incentive towards this direction beside his freedom. And as a slave, being free was, everything. And so now the battle begins with the flag of the Quraysh, which was also, if you remember, I'm not really sure in regards to if it was kind of explained before, but in regards to the flag, once in a battle, once a flag of any party ends up on the ground and nobody picks it up, the battle is considered lost by the first party that the flag falls from. So the flag carrier of the Quraysh was given to a tribe of the Quraysh, Bani Abuddar. And so the family of Bani Abduddar, the guy who was holding the flag for the Quraysh, his name was Talha. And so Hamza ibn Muta'alib radiallahu anhu, the lion of Allah and the lion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had seen that Talha was did not have a tight security around him, and that he was not really protected. So him, along with Ali radiallahu anhu, they and a few other companions went towards Talha and were easily able to strike him because he did not have a lot of security around him. So Talha fell down, and so did the flag. So his second brother picks up the flag, and Hamza ibn Talib, he is able to kill the second brother. And now by this time, Quraysh start to realize that, hey, Hamza ibn Muttalib radiallahu anhu is killing our flag bearer, so let's cover him. So they all surround Hamza ibn Muttalib radiallahu anhu. So now it's the third brother's turn, and he picks up the flag, and Ali ibn Abu Talib kills him. And then the fourth brother picks up. So a person keeps picking up the flag, and the Muslims are killing the flag bearer. And it rotated from Hamza ibn Muttalib radiallahu anhu to Ali radiallahu anhu to the last person, who was Asim ibn Thabit. And so after this, the last number of barrier was the ninth. And so because this was happening, a lot of the Quraysh started to see that nobody's picking up the flag. That means the battle is over. Whoever's going to go pick up that flag is bound to die from the Muslims, because it seems like that's the only thing that the Muslims are attacking. And so the Quraysh start to flee from the battlefield, and they start to make a run for it. And once that happens, now notice that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had stationed the 50 people at the mount, at the little hill. And when they saw that the kuffar were fleeing and the Muslims were picking up the spoils of the war, the battle, so they had thought that the battle was over. And so even though Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had strictly instructed these archers not to budge, even whether we win, whether we lose, whatever happens, don't move. But 40 of the men from the hill decide that these instructions were before the battle, and so the battle is over now. The kuffars are running, Muslims are picking up the spoils of the war, and so we're good to go. So, and that's the mistake that they unfortunately made, the archers, and they ended up, through this, they made the Muslims weaken themselves, because Khalid bin Walid, he was a great military general. He was with the 200 horsemen, and he was able to infiltrate the Muslim army through that back hill. So now remember how the Quraysh were the front, then the Muslims came from the back, and now again there is an army of these 200 horsemen that are behind the Muslims now, and now they are attacking the Muslims. And so the Muslims start to run forward. And when they run forward, it creates chaos, because the Quraysh are fleeing forward, the Muslims are in the front, and then there are Muslims running forward. So the Muslims in the front that were collecting the spoils, they start to realize, like, what is this commotion? What is going on in the back? So they start to go back. So there was a lot of back and forth going on, which confused a lot of the Muslims, that they weren't able to tell who was Muslim, who wasn't Muslim. It became a very chaotic time. This battle became very chaotic, and it seemed that in the beginning that the Muslims were winning, but in the end, Muslims felt a heavy loss, because through this, when the Muslims in the front that were collecting the spoils of the battle, thinking that they were winning, had left Hamza ibn Muttalib radiallahu anhu exposed and alone from a group of people, because remember, Wahshi, his sole purpose was to kill this man who is now alone. Nothing's kind of surrounding him, and he became an easy target. And remember, Wahshi was a great spearman, so his one spear, one throw was easily able to penetrate Hamza ibn Muttalib radiallahu anhu, and he ended up passing away. So after the passing of Hamza ibn Muttalib radiallahu anhu, the chaos surrounded, the chaos grew. And as this chaos grew, the only people that were kind of in the battle know what they were doing were the 200 horsemen with Khalid ibn Walid and his people. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had called out to his army and his people to organize them. And once the people, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam called out for his people, the Muslims, but because of the whole commotion, kuffars were also in the midst, and they also heard the voice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam also became the target. And since he became the target, he also got attacked by enemies, and there were because one of the men threw rock at Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he fell down, and so he assumed that he had killed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the rumor spread that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had passed away. But luckily and obviously he had not, and so that kind of, it was a sad and heavy loss of a war, but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, alhamdulillah, was alive, and at the end, the person who kept the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam protected was Abu Dujana. If you remember, this was the man who was given the sword, subhanallah. And so now, right a year after this battle of Uhud comes another battle, the Battle of Trench. This battle is also known as the Battle of Khandaq, or also the Battle of Ahzab. And so this happens a year after, and keep in mind that Quraysh are already super frustrated, but they're also tired, they had also experienced a loss at the battle of Uhud. So in this battle, by this time, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had created a treaty with the Jews of Al-Madinah, and there were a few tribes that did abide by certain rules, and then there were tribes that did not accommodate or did not abide by the rules of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they broke the mutual treaty of defense that the Muslim had kept with the Jews of Medina. And so the Jews betrayed their treaty, and they started to plan against the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they kind of allied with the Quraysh, and they allied in terms of, like, they offered the Quraysh money, and they had offered them kind of a wealth, and Quraysh were doing horribly economically, even though they were not fully interested because they had lost repetitively by fighting the Muslims. They weren't fully interested, but at the same time, they were interested in, obviously fighting the Muslims and killing the Prophet. So they were all for it, as well, and they were receiving goods from this alliance. And so with this alliance, there were a total army of 10,000 kuffars, mixture of the Jews and the Quraysh. And the way that the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, once they heard of this, they consulted each other, and Salman Farsi radiallahu anhu suggested digging a trench. And digging a trench, these are like they were like underground holes, and so these trenches, it took the Muslims almost 6 days. And please just remember that this was all power of people, all human power. There were no mechanics, there were no bulldozers, there was no machines. So this was all done by hand, subhanallah. And so if you see the outlines here, this is where the trenches were created. And Medina, subhanallah, is already protected through the mountains, these volcanoes, and there are trees here. So the idea was to just build a trench by the entrance the only entrance, visible entrance that the kuffar could come in from. So this, through these trenches, the Muslims were able to kind of defeat the enemy's forces. And aside from that, because of the quantity of people of Muslim versus the quantity of the kuffar, the army, regardless, had lost. And Prophet Muhammad SAW had prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to destroy the Confederates, and the Confederates were the allies of the Jews and the Quraysh. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down a wind, which could be derived as a possible storm, which destroyed the Confederates as a whole. And and this is actually mentioned in Surah Al-Ahzab, and it says, "Oh, you who believed, remember the favor of Allah upon you when our armies came to attack you, and we sent upon them a wind and armies of angels you did not see, and ever is Allah of what you do seeing." And so, subhanallah, this ayah was revealed during the time of this battle of Trench. And so I want to thank you guys for listening, and I hope that you benefited. And please don't forget to donate today, inshallah. Please share your video of recitation or calling of Adhan, and please submit your video of recitation or calling of Adhan at mcmcnj.org/Ramadan stars, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for listening. Jazakallah khair. Ramadan Kareem, and hopefully, inshallah, Eid Mubarak. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.